It's Monday, May 13th, 2024, and closed session. We'll wanted to report actually two items. One is in tonight's closed session, the board voted unanimously to expel the COS student with the banner ID 000156905. 156905. And then also we did do a formal evaluation of our superintendent and president and had a very positive evaluation for his services here at the college. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to ask everyone to stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have now reached public comment. Board Policy 2350. Any person may address the board at this time either on an agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker, with a maximum time of 15 minutes per item, unless otherwise extended by the board. At this time, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to make public comment concerning items on the agenda.
My comment is for something off the agenda.
That would be the next one, yeah, I'm thinking. Okay. Anyone would like to make comment on the agenda? Okay, see none. Public comments concerning items not on the agenda. Please.
Good evening. Can you all hear me? Well, thank you. Good evening. I am a student here at COS, and I'm here to talk about potential plans for the library. They are a bit concerning to me as a student, basically for the lack of transparency and clarity on the subject. I haven't seen personally, and I've looked, and I did review the minutes for the meeting which the president outlined some potential plans. Just some clarity needs to be given on what's going to happen. And it is to my understanding that student support services is going to be moving into the first floor alongside the AAC services. The computers are going to stay, but everything else on the first floor is going to change, and it is all going to be smashed up onto the first floor. I am an AAC student, and I love this program, I'd like to say first and foremost. It has helped me tremendously in college. However, it is not the right place. The library is not the place for the AAC to be. I feel like I'm being paraded in front of my colleagues and my peers, and I'm not always comfortable with that. And I was not notified that it was going to be changed. It was a total surprise to me. So I am lucky that I do have some sort of confidence sometimes, but not every student is going to have that, and I feel like you are also missing an opportunity to help other people. Not to mention that you're serving a small subset of students with AAC and support services for students. And the library is for everybody, not for a specific subset of people. And I am in that subset, and it is wrong. I'd also like to point out that the Educational Service Building is not a replacement for the library. It is a beautiful building, and I love that it has been built. I'm not sure why it's not multiple stories, and I'm not sure why the AAC and the Student Success is not in that building, but it is a great building, and when it was first completed, I thought, great, there's gonna be enough space for everybody on campus because the library is packed all of the time, and now everybody has a place to learn. And going there, it is not a place to study. It is a place to do group projects, and that's about it. There are 3 private study rooms, not communal, in that building, and they are always booked, and I know because I try to book them. I'm in anatomy this semester. I'm going to take hard science classes next semester, and I try to book a room in the library every day, and it is hard to do. In the ESS building, I've never been able to book a private room. There are communal rooms there is an anatomy room. It is not for studying. Students go in there and they chit-chat and hang out. And it is a little bit worthless, and it's kind of frustrating. But that building, again, is wonderful, and it does serve a purpose, but it is not a replacement for the library. It is not where I'm gonna go and write a 10-page paper. It's not where I'm gonna go and study for a major exam. I've never studied it for an anatomy exam in there. I tried, and I left because it was not conducive. I'm also concerned that the tangible books are leaving, and I'm not certain why, because not every student is being guaranteed a laptop or a Chromebook or a hotspot. And even if I do get that laptop and hotspot, if I live on the outskirts of town, let's say I live in Farmersville on the outskirts, it's not gonna pick up that hotspot. And so now I go to school and then I go to work and I can't go back to school because the library is closed. And I need that book that's online and I can't access it now because I don't have the internet. It's a classist move to assume that everybody has equitable and equal access to the materials that they need to study if everything is online. It's tone deaf. And I think we know the social economic situation of most of the students that attend this college. I think we're very much aware, and it's tone deaf. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you everyone for your time.
What is your name?
My name is Mallory, and I love this school, and I love the library. And I think that sitting down and having a conversation about what would best be done with the library, with faculty, with librarians and students, would be good. The library could be reorganized, but I think it needs to be reorganized in a way that suits students' needs. And I'm also interested in the data that was collected in order to make these decisions. I would love to see that. I have not found it, but I would love to see it. But quiet spaces are important, and the library might be the only quiet space a student has in their life. A lot of students sleep in the library. I've napped in the library. I'm here all day. So a library is an extremely important place for a lot of reasons. And disrupting that is going to disrupt a lot of people's lives. And I was told by a faculty member that a member of administration told them change is hard. No, change is inevitable. Change based on poor decisions is hard. Thank you.
You could identify yourself for the record, please.
Hey, my name is Danny Brewer. I'm a student here at COS as well. I will be doing public comments concerning items off the agenda. I'm a 2-year student. I've been here for a good chunk of while, so I will be advocating for the students here and will continue being here, especially on the library front. The library itself is very valuable. Its use cannot be underestimated at all. In many ways, it's a third place for a lot of people. A lot of people go from work to school, back home. That's all they got. And the library itself is a third place. It's a safe space, as she discussed. There's like people who go there to take naps, who use it to for safe study as well as private study and quiet study. Them themselves need time to breather to themselves, and as this campus continues to grow, we are noticing a lack of space, and the library is one of those safe spaces. This is a place where people can use free computers, where they have access to books, where they wouldn't have, and they can collaborate with one another. I did watch the last board meeting to get more of an in-depth understanding of the situation, and there did seem to be a lot of lack of clarity. The president, you said yourself that you do want more interaction between students and between students and faculty, and you're hoping that this change would bring it, but in my ideas, it seems that this itself would negate a lot of things and get rid of those interactions between students themselves and faculty members, because in a sense, you're very much pushing students out of the library, and you're pushing students out of these spaces where they would feel more safe, where they have more peace. data shows, as provided by the libraries themselves, as they've done the surveys and as students have beginning to find out the situation, students want two things: space and quiet. And we are losing out on those, especially as we try to make changes to the bottom floor and start pushing everything up. Quiet is lost as more people gather, and the same goes for the space. If we neglect to cultivate designated areas of quiet, we will see its effects not only on just grades, but I think on just academic interest itself. Not upholding the library, I think, itself gets rid of that academic prestige and that care for it. And again, as I said, I do agree that we are losing a lot of space as we continue to expand and as more and more students do come in. This will continue. This campus is really cool. A lot of people come here, and it's really awesome. And such as they talked about last week, moving student success to that library as well. That's a resource I use. I've been there since the very beginning, but I do think adding it to the bottom floor is very misguided in itself. You go there, a lot of times you meet a counselor, and you do talk about personal stuff. And I think in a library, that's not a very open place to do that. It seems a little more public than those usual offices they offer a little more privacy, especially between that faculty member and that student. As we've expressed and as surveys have shown and as talking to more and more students, what we want is an expansion of the library, not for it to be hidden. The most disappointing part, I think, of this all is that the fact that there is a complete lack of transparency, and there seems to be a lot of secrecy around this. A lot of students I've been talking to never heard of this before. I barely found out about it a couple weeks ago. I just think that it's not even just from the board, but all the way down to the students who this will affect the most. And I think neglecting that neglects what they're going to be experiencing as this changes, and it will affect them all. So I do hope that you all reconsider and are more willing to listen to students who you aim to help throughout all this. So, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heaven Fernandez. Adding off of Mallory's statement regarding moving the AAC, same thing about the library. Regarding putting the AAC into the library, I just recently became an AAC student. I got hit by a drunk driver and lost my right arm. And I was fully capable of doing everything by myself. And then one day it completely changed. I'm the California High Patrol Explorer Captain. I did everything. And after experiencing what I experienced, I was on a cane, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And then the AAC used to be just by itself secluded. And then one day they're like, oh, you got to take a hike to the library. And it was the most longest walk ever on my cane, trying to get resources that I don't think should be in there. But the AAC and resources put aside, the library has played a very vital part in my life and children's life. All of us have experienced the library in an elementary school, and there's kids that hang out there, read, use the laptops, etc. And now we choose to come to college. And as for myself, regarding my situation, I collect disability because I cannot work. I'm injured. My disability ended. And in order for me to go study somewhere publicly, so say you guys do take this library out, I have to buy something. Some people cannot afford that, myself included. So where else am I supposed to study? If you guys can't provide the hotspots, if you guys can't provide the laptops, where else are we supposed to find these resources? And I think it's a foolish idea to rip out the library. I think it should be something that you guys should deeply reconsider, considering the impacts that it has on multiple people. My entire family, my uncle, he has his PhD. My mom, she's getting her PhD. My sister, bachelor's degree. We all started here at College of the Sequoias because we are a low-income family. Every single one of us has used that library since my mom and family, all of them started walking. Well, not walking, but like coming to COS. I just think it's something that you guys should reconsider, considering the impacts that it has on multiple people, not only including myself. Thank you, guys.
Is there anyone else that'd like to make public comments concerning items not on the agenda?
Hello, there's going to be two of us. My name is Jordan Lamb. I'm the CSEA negotiator for the cycle. I'm coming to talk to you about something not on the open agenda, but on the closed agenda. We're in the middle of negotiations with the district, as you all know. So I'm coming here. We opened up our article for leaves, and we have come to the district in hopes that you will create a paid parental leave bucket. And we heard in our beginning sessions that maybe it would be helpful if we came. We didn't hear this, but maybe we thought it would be helpful to come and show that there is a need for paid parental leave from your CSEA members. The current leaves is you exhaust sick leave, and then you go into 50% half pay for 100 days as provided by EdCode. So I'd like to read a few letters, a few statements from our members in support of paid parental leave. I'm a single mother with no family support, and I have to wait for my baby's vaccinations 3 months before starting daycare. It is a difficult decision between exhausting my sick and vacation time or saving for it when my baby is sick. I chose to go without pay because daycare and baby needs are expensive and cannot afford to not receive my full pay during this time. Balancing work and motherhood is challenging, and I hope you can understand my situation. Thank you. I have had, new statement, I have had 2 children while working at COS, having to deplete all of my vacation and sick leave twice. And I do need to clarify, vacation is not guaranteed that you can use it. It is requested of the district and your manager. Sick leave is afforded to you and is a right, and you can take it off when you want. I took this off twice in order to have a child, and it was and continues to be very difficult to me. My first son was born in November, so I had to wait until July. 7 months to get fully paid again. If anyone in my family was sick or had a medical appointment I needed to take them to, most of the time I would have to take have my husband take my newborn to the doctor so that I could get my full paycheck. This is very stressful as a mother. I understand not everyone has my situation, but I do not have any other family in town to help us when we have a sick child or need to take them to medical or dental appointments. My second son was born in July. It was very difficult to deplete all my vacation sick leave once again, and I cannot stress enough how hard it was to go from 181 hours of sick time, like I had when I went on this leave, to 0. He was born July 15th, so I had to wait an entire year to get fully paid for any time I needed to take off after he was born, and I returned to work. Luckily, my children have been healthy, but I still struggle with having enough time off to care for them when needed, since I was forced to use all of my time off twice. I cannot imagine if I had a sick baby or complications during or after pregnancy. This would make it impossible to have a family while working for the district. Situations like these create considerable financial strain and stress to families. It raises the question of, is the district adequately supporting working mothers? It is crucial to ensure policies are equitable and supportive to all employees, including those who become parents. I'm just going to do a couple more. We had 18. I don't believe that 5 minutes each will suffice, so I hope the members who I do not speak will forgive me. Sorry. My name is, I'm Courtney Haney, and it is my first day back at work from maternity leave. It was a form of great stress to budget the sick time for maternity leave. I did not have enough sick time to even cover my needed time to recover from the C-section. As it happened, I needed longer time off to work. I needed longer time off to work on nerve damage. Now I'm left with a 2-month-old and 0 sick leave. My husband has been healthy and working, and thankfully we are a dual income household. But the money is tight and children get sick, and it was our first day of daycare. I'm thankful to Linda in HR and my supervisor, Richard. They worked with me to understand how to manage the sick leave and the system in place. However, it could be better. I support the ask for parental leave. I pass it over, and we're just going to go another 5. Is that all right? I end my comments.
Thank you. So I'll be reading further statements from CSEA members. So quick note, it's worth thinking about how the use of sick time weighs the benefit against younger employees who are more likely to want children, but also have had time to accrue, but have not had time to accrue sick leave. So my story reflects this. I didn't have much sick time as I hadn't been employed long enough for it to build. When my wife had our child, we couldn't afford to take half pay, especially with the new and hefty medical bill to pay off. So I simply didn't take time. I took a handful of days, as much as I dared to take, while still keeping some time for actual illnesses. I wasn't nearly as present for my newborn as was needed, along with bonding time. I sorely regret having missed. That can't be understated. If I didn't have family stepping in to help my wife, I don't know what we would have done. The 100 days is a great softener for unavoidable circumstances, one I'm truly grateful for, but I couldn't bring myself to voluntarily make the sacrifice because of the money stress, and I truly regret not being able to get that time back. This letter is in support of paid parental leave negotiations that CSEA is working to conduct. The current leave practices have had a significant personal impact on my family. Despite our desire to have a child at this stage of our lives, my husband and I have been forced to delay our plans due to the lack of adequate parental leave. As an individual with an autoimmune disease, I've had to dip into my sick more than I would like for doctor appointments out of town, surgical procedures, and medical flare-ups. Currently, I only have 20 days of paid sick leave available. This means that if I had a child at this moment, I would only have 20 days of fully paid time with my newborn child. I cannot afford to be paid half my salary for 100 days, and so at this time, we are actively saving money so that we can afford to let me take the entirety of the 100 days off so that I can soak up all of the newborn moments as a first-time mother. I love working at COS. However, I will prioritize my time with my newborn and want to take every minute of allowed time with them in their first year of life. In addition to this, my husband is self-employed. Therefore, he receives no paid time off, which adds another financial stress to starting a family. If we had adequate parental leave at COS, I could start my family now and not let the financial burdens take a toll on my family planning. In addition to this, I find it hard to stomach the fact that I will come back from parental leave and not have a single day of sick leave to be able to use for my current health conditions, as well as inevitable sickness that my young child will acquire. I hope that the district will put the employees' mental health and overall well-being first, and that they consider this matter, as the current practices put immense stress on individuals hoping to become parents. Thank you for your time and consideration, Board.
Is there anyone else that'd like to make public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving forward, item 5, board and executive staff reports, starting with our student trustee report.
Hello, everyone. A few things I would like to report on. From Visalia, we had our first ever gala event. Honestly, it was really stressful trying to put it on. We spent the night before and also morning of setting up the Morrow Gym for that event, but it turned out to be a really huge success, so that was really great. We saw a lot of people in the audience there, so that was also cool as well to see you guys. We estimated about 100 to 150 students to attend, but by the end of the ticket sales, we sold 365 tickets to students, which is honestly really great because we had such a low-ball number for how many students were going to attend. It was a very diverse group of students. I showed up an hour late because I had to go pick up my best friend from Fresno. She was my date for the night. So I showed up an hour late in, and like when we walked in, we were kind of like, whoa, there's a lot more people than we expected. And it honestly was just like a great event. We had to come up with a bunch of ideas, like morning of. The lighting was such a big issue because Memorial Gym is old. So we were trying to make it as dim as possible. William Hobbs, who is our advisor, he's great, honestly. He went to Costco the morning of, buying a bunch of like string lights that you find in the backyard to give us the great mood lighting. There's a diverse group of groups of students, like I said, all enjoying their time there, having amazing time on the dance floor. Also, another person I'd like to point out, Rick Thompson, who some of you guys may know. He was in attendance as well, and I personally have not met Mr. Thompson, but Coach Hobbs said that he danced the whole night, and he looked like he enjoyed his time there. Another thing I'd like to point out from Visalia is we had Grad Fest. Graduation is next week. I will be there at the 5 p.m. ceremony. But there was 460 students in attendance here at Visalia, 100 in Tulare, and 80 at Hanford to pick up their caps and gowns, and also anyone that is a part of our honors program. They also got to pick up their cords as well. This is going to look like the largest commencement that COS has had in history, with over 928 students planning to attend both the 5 p.m. ceremony and 8 p.m. ceremony. Lastly, I would like to touch on for Visalia as we had our honors reception. There was 300 guests there, and we also recognize all of our honor students that we have here at COS, along with 3 academic excellence students. Moving on to Tulare, now that we're concluding, some of our people leaving, more people are coming in, so we had our steps registration in Tulare on April 18th and April 19th, where steps is where our high school students come and they get helped with registering for classes. Honestly, as someone who worked in the Welcome Center, so I did help with steps last semester, and I came from Fresno. This is such a big event because when I came from Fresno, I didn't really have that much help when it came to registering for classes as a student here. I kind of had to figure my way around here. But to have this event, it's really helpful to students. A lot of students, when I was working the event, were saying that they feel so much more better about coming to COS. They're really scared. Obviously, it's a big experience moving on from high school into college. It's a big step in their educational career. But over 100 students were assisted in the in-person steps registration, but over 400 students were eligible to register for classes for the upcoming fall and summer semesters. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Very much. Any questions or comments for student trustee? No?
Yeah, your comments about the gala event was, the ironic thing is, up until just this year or late last year, the Memorial Gym was very dimly lit. Now it's been redone
lights.
and it's bright, and so it's.
Honestly, with what we had, a bunch of our whole entire team of student senate was really great with the ideas. We had our table decor had fairy lights, which is like the tiny little string lights. We had a bunch of those around the table. Obviously, like I said, Hobbs getting all the outdoor light strips. And then we also had the help of Brent Kennedy with his DJ set as well, because he had a little disco ball. So.
Next up, board member reports. Trustee Sherman.
No report.
Trustee Nunes.
Briefly, had the opportunity to participate in the President's Cup golf tournament. Mr. Perez was stuck with me once again, and once again we didn't win. And also had the pleasure of attending the performing arts presentation of Anastasia. And what a great performance that was, and as they always do, what a tremendous performance that was. Really enjoyed it. That's it. Very good.
Let's see, visited the CSF luncheon that the foundation sponsored. If you don't know that, the foundation sponsors to all the high school students throughout the district a luncheon where they get to come and talk about what their plans are, their academic plans and all that, and be recognized. So that's an awesome event. Also attended Anastasia. Boy, I mean, we go to a fair number of plays, and that was top notch. You know, just the choreography and the costumes and the acting and the singing. It was awesome. So.
I'll ditto those sentiments. I also attended the play and took my nieces, and the greatest part was they were sitting there and they started looking through their book, and they recognized names. So it's just great that we use local talent. And one of them works at their school, and the little girl that was Anastasia was a friend of theirs that they go to school with. So it made the play a lot more fun for them. So, and it was a packed house, so that was great. I did not attend the CSF lunch in Tulare. I was sad to miss, but lots of people commented on how well run it was, and that they just wish that there was a little more participation, even though I think it was quite large this year. But it was good inspiration for the high schools to get more students doing that. So the students that attended felt very important, and we're really grateful. So thank you for all that you put into it, and it was enjoyed by all. Thank you.
Over the weekend, I had the opportunity to invite my family to the All That dance, which I'm not sure if you consider it a recital. I'm not sure the technical term, but students performing their end of their semester dance performance. And my wife is a Mexican folk dance instructor, and her Puente mentee participated and danced Mexican folk dance. So it was great to see her perform. But then I was amazed of how much talent that we have here at COS as well. I also attended in the last month the joint meeting with Visalia Unified in the city of Visalia. It was great to see how we work together to serve our residents and the different projects that we're working on. I also attended the presentations from our president at our local school districts in Woodlake, Orosine, and Visalia, and it's always great to present this to the school board members to learn a little bit more about their students and how they're doing here at COS, but also show what we're working on to provide even more services for our students in the upcoming years. And I always appreciate that opportunity to connect with the students from, or the community leaders from those communities. So that's what I did in the last since the last board meeting. Very good. Moving forward, I'd like to invite Mr. Foster to do the foundation report.
Good evening. I just have one one item I'd like to report today. This is with regards to our scholarship night. The COS scholarship night was on May 2nd, and we had a little over 300 people there, and that is a collection of student awardees, the recipients, and the donors. And only those that want, the donors that want to be at this event and meet their students, not even necessarily present their award on stage or anything like that. So it's been really heralded by the donors as a great opportunity to see where their money's going and who they're really investing in. It's been again well received by the donors. This year, this scholarship award season, we will have awarded $622,800 through 475 awards to 303 individuals. And that is a record-breaking award cycle regarding the total amount awarded. We broke the $600,000 ceiling, never done that before. And so, it's something to be celebrated. But I also, what drives me is that the fact that only 303 students were awarded scholarships, and that accounts for about 40% of all those who applied. And so I could have had another $900,000 and provided an equal amount of awards to those who didn't get anything. So that's what drives me is we've got more work to do, but we're making progress along those fronts. So I appreciate all your folks' support. The donors support the college and the scholarships because it's an endorsement of what the college does and the value that we place on education and the value that we provide the students who seek education here. And so it's a great partnership on our part. It makes my job raising money so much easier when we have such a wonderful product to sell. So thank you very much.
while Tim is up there, I'd like to just commend him and his staff for the amazing job that they do on a lot of fronts. You mentioned the CSF luncheons. I think the Visalia luncheon alone at the convention center had 500 or 600 parents and students, faculty from Visalia Unified and CVC being recognized, but also Scholarship Night gave us the excuse to kind of dress up our Porter Fieldhouse, and then we used it over the next eight days and nights to stuff just about every program on campus in there for a grad ceremony or performance or whatever. Really dresses up nice with the carpet and the pipe and drape and the tables. And Tim doesn't run all of those events, but he sets the stage so that we can all really look good during this award season. So Tim, thank you for all that hard work. It really pays off in the form of representing the orange and blue well. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you.
Questions or comments from Mr. Foster? Thank you very much for the report. I'd like to invite Dr. Lacerna to do the accreditation report.
Good evening, everyone. In your packet, you have the update on the next open meeting of the ACCJC, which will be held June 5th and 6th in Los Angeles. The open session will be Wednesday, June 5th at 1 p.m., where the public is welcome to join in person or virtually. So that's in your packet. Locally, we are completing our first draft of our accreditation report, which is due next December. So December 2024, we should have a first draft in early fall for everyone to review. That's where we are. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Thank you for the report. Next up, Superintendent President reports, Dr. Calvin.
Thank you, President Macareno. I've got, 3 or 4 items here. The first thing I'd like to do is just congratulate our Giant Award winners for 2024. From Classified Confidential, Angie Campson-Cloutier. From part-time faculty, Francisco Alonso. From full-time faculty, Octavio Barajas. From the administrative side, Miriam Salam. And our community member was Paul Delgado, who helps out with the Foundation Fine Arts Fund, as well as the Visalia Community Chorus. We had our annual lunch on the quad on Friday, and it was just a heck of a lot of fun. I think an all-time record. At one point, we had 300 people RSVP. I don't think we have had quite that many people show up, but it was quite the lunch. So congratulations to our winners for the year. Also want to thank everyone that's helped COS shine over the last few weeks. And we touched on a few of these things, but I started marking them down like I was going to name all these things. And we've probably already had 25 to 30 either grad ceremonies, final performances, employer recognitions, recognitions for students and their parents, the gala, just amazing things. And they're done at such a high level. Anastasia is a good example. The All That Dance concert over the weekend is another good example. The choir concerts, the band concerts, just a whole bunch of people working hard to make us look good. And not everybody on campus even realizes that. Some come, do their job, and they don't recognize or realize all this stuff that's happening on nights and weekends to really make us look good. So congratulations and thank you to all of those folks. A little bit of bad news. The May Revise came out on Friday. At this point, we don't have a lot of details. Board members, normally by this time, I've got a whole list of kind of the ins and outs of the May Revise. We didn't get a lot of that this time, hoping that our Chancellor's office puts something out this week. What we do know is that right now, COLA is 1%, a far cry from last year's 8.22%. And we don't know if that's funded or unfunded. Sometimes the formula says it's 1% and it doesn't even get funded. So we'll see about that. And then I also know that here in the last 2 months, for this year's budget, the 8.22% they gave us last summer that we made decisions on, they've put a deficit factor on 3.5% of that. So there's a few opportunities for us to get that back, depending on tax receipts and things like that. But as of right now, we've taken back 3.5% of what we were supposed to get. So that's not good news either. So hopefully we'll get a
Dollar amount be with that figure?
about 3.5 million. Yeah, not anything to sneeze at. It's some money. So we'll wait to hear on that, and hopefully by June I'll have more information to share with the board on our budget. And let me just finish on a high note, though. We'd like to recognize Madison Parker, Maddie, for a job well done. You've been such a great student leader and student trustee that we'd like to give you a little token of our appreciation. Maddie, thank you for everything you've done to represent students on this board. Awesome job. That's the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Item 6, reports, starting with Academic Senate President's Report Update. Mr. Arzola.
Thank you, Board President Macareno and Board of Trustees and Superintendent President Dr. Calvin. Just a couple of things I'd like to share with you. First off, I want to begin with just acknowledging that we had a pretty good turnout for our own service awards ceremony last Wednesday. We had 8 retirees, 2 30-year awardees, 9 20-year, about 15 10-year, and then our tenure faculty group was one of the largest ones as well. So I want to just give all those awardees a shout out and thank you for their service to the district and most importantly to the students. Another thing that we did last week at our last meeting of the year was we held our elections finally, and the Senate team, executive team is going to remain the same for the next 2 years. Vice President is going to be David Hurst from English. Secretary Treasurer is going to be Teresa Mendoza from Math and Science Division, and the State Delegate Ramyar Alavia Moghadam, who is from the business, IT specifically. And then I also was asked to run, and I was reelected. So I will be in your presence for the next 2 years. Thank you. That doesn't deserve applause, really. A couple things also that of note that I wanted to share with you that occurred last week. The Academic Senate voted to reconstitute a third standing committee, Standing Committee C, which will focus on making recommendations to the Academic Senate on 10+1 academic and professional matters related to DEIA, or diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And then one other thing I thought was noteworthy was the Distance Education Committee, as well as the Educational Technology Committee, put forth a resource for artificial intelligence. As you all probably know, artificial intelligence, generative AI is really making its inroads into education, and our Distance Ed Committee leadership realized that it was high time to get cobble together some resources for our faculty, and that was provided to the Senate and approved. So looking forward to continuing that work. There was a comment about ensuring that those resources are shared throughout the district, not just for faculty. On a personal note, as the work for the ASCCC, I had the opportunity to attend this past Thursday the ACCJC conference held in Irvine. My colleague Manuel Velez, him and I serve as the first and second chair of the accreditation committee for the ASCCC. We submitted a poster, it was accepted, and that's what I got to do Thursday, was to present a poster on the role of faculty in the accreditation process. And then the other thing I do want to report is related to the plenary. There were 32 resolutions that were presented, debated at the plenary last month, and 31 were passed. Elections were also held. I do have to tell you that I was not reelected as the at-large representative for the ASCCC. However, I was elected as the Area A representative. So I will, for the 24-25 year, I will continue my work with the ASCCC as the Area A representative. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Arzola?
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Redden for Costa President's Report and Update. I don't see her though. Is there anyone else representing? No? Okay. Move on to CSA President's Report and Update. Ms. Kane.
CSEA has no report at this time.
SAFA President's Update. Ms. Alberti. Moving on to item 7, information. Item 1, annual report on distance education. Ms. Baker.
Okay, perfect. Yes. All right, so I've met this board once before when I was introduced in August as the new distance ed coordinator. So I've been very, very busy in my first year, and so I'm excited to kind of share with you how DE is looking and the things that we're working on at COS. Okay, so you have in your report and also up on screen some data highlights. So there's 2 tables that I'm going to share with you today in this report. This one is course offerings by modality. So I think this one's important to share because it kind of shows the breakdown of instruction at COS between in-person instruction and distance education offerings. So the data from 2020 to probably fall 2021 is a little skewed because of the pandemic, right? Everything is coded weirdly, everything is kind of strange. But I do have this in here because I think that starting with 2019 shows you kind of a bell curve, if you will, where we had almost 90% face-to-face instruction pre-pandemic, and less than 10% of our courses were online, not even 4% of them were hybrid. And if you chart like our online and our hybrid columns, we scooped upward in order to meet the demand during the pandemic and in order to make sure that students could access courses during the pandemic when they couldn't access our physical location on campus. And while we have scooped back down to being a primarily face-to-face institution, we are remaining steady at about 75-25. About 3/4 of our courses are being offered in person, and about 1/4 of our courses are being offered in a distance education modality. So when I use that term, distance education modality, that includes both fully online, asynchronous, the course and teacher, or the students and teacher never meet in person, and also hybrids, where a great deal of the instruction is done online, but there are scheduled sessions for like presentations or exams or face-to-face contact. The second table that I'm sharing with you is success rates broken down by modality. So we just looked at how many we have of each, and now we're kind of looking at the breakdown of how well are students doing in these courses disaggregated by the modality. So most campuses in our system do experience success gaps that are divided along lines of instructional delivery method. Pretty much without exception, students tend to do better in face-to-face courses than they do in online courses. There's a lot of reasons for that, which I'll kind of get into what we're doing as far as professional development to close those gaps at COS. But what we can gather from this data, even though, again, 2020 into 2021 is a little bit skewed, there were a lot of grades that were pulled out of that data. The emergence of like extenuating withdrawals entered that data, and so some of it's not entirely accurate. But what we can look at, again, is starting in 2019, looking at kind of where we've fallen now. That we have a pretty consistent success rate gap that falls between like 5.5% and 8% in our online courses, hybrid courses versus our face-to-face courses. So what I'm going to share with you next is what I'm trying to do about this.
Elise,
Yes.
while you're doing that, do you have any idea if those percentages are consistent with statewide averages?
Yeah, I do.
Is that coming up?
No, that's a good question right here. Ours is higher. So it's really difficult to pull the statewide data, but because it's reported in a lot of different ways and campuses report it in a lot of different ways. But what I have been able to pull is that the statewide success gap is between 3 and 5%, and ours is between 6 and 8. So the state as at large is doing a little bit better than we are, but I think that there's a lot of reasons for that, right? It can be student-centered, it can be faculty-centered. There's a lot of stuff that contributes to those success rate gaps. And so I see it as my job, now that I'm here full-time, to try to assess like what are the reasons that that's happening, and how do I support faculty and students to make sure that they have the stuff they need so they get an equitable experience face-to-face or online, because this is my field of work and I totally believe that that's possible to do. So this is a snapshot of some of the professional development that I have offered since I arrived here. So some of the themes that I want to point out to you are, it's very heavy in something called RSI. RSI stands for regular and substantive interaction. And it's a legal mandate that we see in a lot of our governing documents. It's in accreditation, it's in Title V. There are a lot of places where we have to be regularly and substantively, meaning about the content, interacting with our students. Since our accreditation visit is less than a year away, at least our review of our online courses is less than a year away, a great deal of my work has been trying to get everyone up to speed on what's the accreditation team looking for when they arrive, and that's RSI. So RSI review readiness was one that wasn't super well attended, to my dismay. We had Shift Happens, preparing online faculty for accreditation. That was a convocation workshop that focused on RSI. And then we had finally a self-review for RSI workshop, where I gave everyone the info they needed to review themselves if they so desired. Other trainings were in course design, equitable online instruction, or tech or discipline-specific content. We do tend to see wider success gaps in STEM fields in online courses, and so it was really exciting to me to be invited to the math department to give a specific instruction to them on what can we do in math courses specifically to increase success rates in online courses. So overall, I gave 8 workshops, had about 100 faculty come, which is great, but I would like to grow that figure in coming years. Okay. Next, I'm going to share with you some of the DE projects and initiatives that are outside of the data and outside of the workshops that I've offered. So the Online Teaching Certification Program has been a locally offered program at COS for a very long time. It was created by Deborah Nolan, who was my full-time predecessor. It was tweaked a lot by Dr. Chris Stillwell, who filled an interim before I got here. We had 31 new certifications this year, which is really, really high. To give you context, last year we had 11. So we've pretty much tripled our number of online certifications, which is indicating an interest, I think, in faculty wanting to teach online courses, and also maybe excitement now that we have a full-time distance ed coordinator there to run it. So that's been really fun to run that. I have made some adjustments to the content. I've integrated stuff in artificial intelligence because that's in all of our teaching and learning experiences right now. OER, which is Open Educational Resources. There's a lot of work going into that, which I'll go into in just a minute, and then Title V updates, including stuff like RSI. The Distance Ed Committee, which I am the faculty chair of, took on a lot of initiatives this year, but I want to highlight several of them for you. The third one on the list, we created some guidelines for fraudulent faculty enrollments. This is something that is hitting all the community colleges. We're experiencing fraudulent students who are enrolling in the course in order to get financial aid, and they think it's easy to do because they'll never actually see their faculty member in person. So if they can fly under the radar and collect their financial aid and then disappear into the sunset, it can be quite lucrative criminal activity for them. All California community colleges are getting hit really hard with it, and so what we chose to do in the DE committee is we partnered with administration, admissions, enrollment, financial aid, and student services to ask what's going on at each of those levels and to
and to kind of try to create a guide that goes to faculty, because truly, like, the faculty are the ones that are going to identify if someone is a human or if someone is a robot in the course. We're the ones that can, like, notice their weird writing style or their strange profile picture or telltale signs. So we created that. I did ask admissions, what's our current fraud screen look like? And at COS, we currently have 142 students that we have identified and blocked as fraudulent. So those are students that did not get financial aid from us because we were able to catch them because of the systems that are in place. So we're making progress there. We also proposed in DECOS an updated online certification program, which includes some maintenance. So just, again, kind of revamping that system that's been around for a long time to include some of these updates, and ask the faculty that certify do a little bit of maintenance every year to kind of keep abreast of what's going on and what the changes are. One reference that we also created an artificial intelligence resource kit, and an open educational resources kit was another piece of that. That's just kind of part of our routine business, just trying to release resources that assist. We at COS have received a $200,000 OER ZTC grant. OER is Open Educational Resources, so textbooks that are free to access on the internet at no cost to students. ZTC means zero textbook costs. And we currently have 30 faculty who are working to complete or to write courses that are fully zero cost to students. So students will be able to enroll at COS and never buy a textbook and get their entire degree complete without ever paying for materials, which is a huge move for us as far as our equity initiatives and our equity commitments go. These faculty are updating outdated OER, adopting new OER, or building fully adoptable OER-ready online courses. So a new faculty member could get a course a week before the semester, and they can immediately start teaching a course OER, which will make huge strides in that. We're trying to have those courses ready to go by spring. And to prepare for accreditation, we've done some RSI review and research or outreach. Again, that's regular and substantive interaction, kind of auditing classes in a very positive, feedback-forming way to see, are we interacting with our students enough? So when the accrediting agency gets in there, they'll see it and say, yep, COS is interacting and we're not teaching correspondence courses, essentially. So far, we've had 66 faculty participate, which again is not as high as I would like. That's about 40% of our online faculty, but I have big plans to try to up that in the fall. Artificial intelligence resources we've touched on. And finally, I am also creating a DE-SIR, which is a self-evaluation report for my program specifically, that I will be able to hand to the accrediting agency. From what I hear, often the evaluators have not actually taught online. And so it'll help if I can give them something that shows this is where you're going to look, this is what we're doing, these are our faculty participation rates, and kind of show them a commitment that's outside of the immediately observable stuff in Canvas. We can kind of show them a more institutional umbrella view of what we're doing. And that is the end of my report.
You sound like somebody to me that you enjoy your job.
I love my job.
Yeah, I can tell.
Before you sit,
Yes.
I do have a question for you.
Okay.
On that last slide, Megan, if you wouldn't mind going back to that, there's reference, I don't know, in the middle or so of the second column, the distance ed committee. When I read through your report, I was kind of struck with, I'll call it maybe a disparity, and that's out of ignorance, right? I don't know the details, that's the reason I'm asking, but it seemed to me that our rubric of determining whether or not an instructor is, I'll call it, competent in the instructional modality to teach an online course was the fact that if you've taught one in the last 3 years, you're good to go, right? But I'm thinking my mind, if it wasn't sure exactly how to do it and they sort of stumbled through, he's definitely better than he was 3 years ago, or she, but they may still not be as competent as they could be, right? And then I contrasted that by the suggestion that there are other schools that have a rigorous sort of way of documenting the fact that they are exposed to, subjected to, and explored, and going back and forth with others who are competent in that area, it would seem to me that we would want to lean much more toward that latter part than the former. So I'm curious what your anticipation is, the plans are to move us a little farther along?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Astute observations. We don't have quite as rigorous of qualifications as a lot of other colleges do, and that's something that I think we've been aware of. Given that, like, the qualifications to teach a faculty member online were written before the pandemic, so now pretty much everyone that taught in 2020 or 2021 has taught an online course and is thus qualified to teach online for COS. We in the Distance Ed Committee workshopped this a lot and determined that prior experience is not equivalent to expertise, and that we want faculty that teach online for us to have some training and to maintain that training. And so we created a proposal, which actually just succeeded in the Academic Senate at our last meeting, for what training might look like, including training on like legal mandates, accessibility, interaction, and assessment, and how all of those things exist in the online space. And so I'm hoping, pending the outcome of a lot of other moving pieces on campus, that we will be able to see an updated, much more rigorous training program to qualify faculty coming in the next 3 to 4 years.
Thank you.
Covered.
Perfect. I figured she did. You want to walk away? Done.
Item 2, quarterly update, budget accountability, quarter ending March 31st, 2024. Mr. Perez.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. Item number 2 and number 3 are in support of Board Priority 7, or Board Priority number 7, which is fiscal stability, transparency, and accountability. With that being said, the first page that you see here is a comparison from last month, board meeting on the 8th of April to May 13th. And if you kind of scroll down, just there we go. Revenue on the top-hand side shows $102 million, $102.8 million. Expenditures are estimated a little over $100 million, with a estimated surplus of $2.2 million at the end of the year. But I do want to point out that what President Calvin said about the state deficit of 3.5% or $3.5 million, which means the state knows they owe us the $102 million, $103 million. They don't have enough money, so what they're doing is just deficiting everybody. So there's a couple opportunities to get that money back. One is in June, late June, what we call second principal apportionment. We'll see how it goes. If more tax receipts come in, that might shrink. Then worst case scenario, they true up 8 months after we've closed the fiscal year, June 30th. But just to note, if it does not come to fruition by the time we close in August, we will make that adjustment to that $7 million transfer that we did. Or not everybody spends all their money in the general fund. So it's nothing that to be alarmed about, just something to be aware about, okay? So on the left-hand side is the general fund. On the right-hand side are the restricted programs, mostly student services, strong workforce, CTE programs like that. So money comes in, money comes out. There's really always never a surplus at the end. Next page, please. Again, this is the details on the revenue side. You'll see revenue changes. On A is unrestricted. See it's true up of culinary testing, spring material increases. And then B is, again, a categorical is the Kern Community College District regional increase of $10,000. And then the bottom part is the unrestricted expenditures, and you'll see the numbers there. Bottom line, it's a $69,000 additional expense there. Next page. Again, you'll see where we started our surplus of $9.3 million when we adopted the budget in September. Coming down on the right-hand side, you'll see in April we made that $7 million transfer. And then you'll see our estimated surplus of 2.2. And just to remind you, and anybody in the audience, remember the $7 million was to schedule maintenance, computer upgrades, CTE, FF&E, and CTE complex. We've done that. Next page, please. And this is just a recap of the revenue. On the left-hand side is the adopted budget that we took to you in September, $102.7 million. Where we're standing right now, about 102.8. What we've collected so far, a little over 79 million. So we've collected about 76%, which we're in the last quarter of the fiscal year, so that's pretty normal there. Next page on the expenditure side. Expenditure side, if you scroll down, there we go. We showed it adopted at 93.3. Updates, the working budget, a little over 100 million. The last page, or the previous page, showed 102 in revenue, 100 million in expenditures, so that's where you get the 2.2 estimated surplus. Again, third quarter of the year, about 70%, so we're right on track there. The next page is basically for the Tulare County Office of Education, because they hold all the dollars for COS. We are not fiscally independent, which is not a negative thing. That's just what we are as a district. So they require this on a monthly basis just to show that the district does have funds. So when they certify our payroll or they approve our checks and our warrants, we bring this to them also to show that there's money in the bank there, which you think they would know because they hold our money. But again, we have to break it out by funds. So we break it out by funds there. So that completes the quarterly budget accountability report for the month of May. I'd be happy to answer any question you may have on that one.
Quarterly financial report, CCFS-311Q.
Okay, so this is our quarterly financial statement that we are sent to the Chancellor's office. If you go to the next page, Megan. And the first three columns, 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23 are passed. What we're on the right-hand side projected for 23, 24, again, about 102.7, 102.8 million, which is column A3. Go to the expenditure side, B3, we're looking at a little over 100 million. Revenues over expenditures, 2.2. Beginning fund balance, 28.2 million. Again, prior year adjustments, which means they trued up 8 months after last fiscal year, so we gained a little over 900,000. So our adjusted fund balance beginning of July of 23 was 29.1 million. Add 2.2 of the estimated surplus. So we're looking at a $31.4 million fund balance or 31.3% reserve. And just to remind you and folks in the audience, board priority number 7 is to make sure that we exceed the state average. So the state average of fund balance is around 29, 30%. So we exceed that by a couple percentage points there. And then if you kind of glance over in E, if you look at 2021, you'll see where our fund balances was 23.6 million at 29%. Next fiscal year, 27.9 at 33.5. Last year, 28.2 at 28.8. So you'll see we're going up a little bit, but again, we are transferring stuff over to capital projects, scheduled maintenance, computer replacement, things like that. If you scroll down, we'll skip that. Cash in the bank just shows how much cash is in the County Office of Ed's account, or not the County Office of Ed, but the County of Tulare. We don't have the luxury investing that. It's a county pool. What do we gain? About 2% interest around there. I'm looking at you, Chief Accounting Officer. She's not shaking her head. So about a 2% interest, all right? And then you'll see bottom, if you go down a little bit more, adopted budget, again, revenue expenditures, before we made the transfer, and then the annual current budget, which is number 2 of that column, you'll see where we're at 31.4 or 31.3%. And then if you go to the next page, I'll ask questions. Have we settled any employee contracts during this quarter? No, we're currently in negotiations. Do we have any significant events, i.e. long-term debt, settlement, audit findings? Good news is no. Remember, we paid off all of our long-term debt using one-time dollars. We had no audit findings, which is good. And then do we foresee any fiscal problems for this year and the next year? And answer to both of those are no. That completes that report, and we'll send that to the Chancellor's office, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on that one.
Ron, is there a little bit of a timing difference in that where we have the general fund cash, what is that, H.3 on this last, 37.344, and the one here, which is slightly, there's a bit of a timing.
Yeah, it's all time. It's all a percentage rate of how much cash you get from the state.
No, I mean the balance, for instance, the balance in this report by fund,
Oh, yeah, oh,
Is-
you're looking at the big one right there.
this
Yeah.
one is a
You
little.
go to that one.
Slightly, it's not really.
It's on the
that-
last report, right? Yeah.
Yeah, don't fret about it. It's
Oh, no, it's all
Wait, I
time.
went to the
It's by the time we post and the time they recognize. So yes, it is. It's the very last one. Yes,
Yeah, 37,352.
yes. It's
Oh,
all-
there it is. It's up on, it's that $8,000.
Yes, it's the,
Cash on hand.
yeah, county treasurer and the
Okay.
cash on hand. Both of
Thought I had you there for a minute.
Don't do that to me, and I'll be playing golf with me next year, right? No. Any questions on this one, the 311 report? If not, we'll send that out to the chancellor's office. And the next one is,
Date Measure C bond sale.
yes, so this one is an update to our bond sale that we're planning on doing, but I just want to kind of give it a little context to that. You want me to? No, I don't have it.
You know what, I think she took it with
She
her.
took
she
it. I'll
took
put
it?
for you.
Oh,
Just tell me next slide and I'll do
Next
it.
slide, please. Yeah, I don't have it.
I thought I saw it with her clipboard.
Okay.
That's okay.
So this one is for Board Priority 8. As those that know, just to remind everybody in the audience, is in November 2022, the district took a measure out to SFID, the local taxpayers, in the amount of $95 million in order to build a university center and a student union. Next slide. It's slow.
Yeah, doesn't want to respond to me right now.
What's that clicker back?
Do you have those slides? I'll go. over
Yeah,
them.
we can
Oh,
just
here we go.
flip the
Okay.
slide.
So recap, $95 million in bonds.
Oh, there we go.
Levying $13 per 100,000 assessed value, which means if your house is worth $400,000 assessed value by the county, you'll be paying $52 a year for the district's $95 million in bonds. It's a 30-year term. It is required a 55% approval rate, and it passed 55.84. Next slide, please. Oh, I do want to mention, though, the district, we made the promise at $13 per 100,000 assessed value. Legally, we could have went to 25, but we made that full faith effort and promise to the taxpayers. So just want you know that's where we're staying at. It's $13 per 100,000 assessed. Again, just an overview of what you're looking at. Mooney Boulevard on the bottom. Ed Support Services you'll see on the bottom right. University Center is on the left, where the commercial buildings are that are in Tulare and Mooney. We own a third of it. We're in the process, when I say a third of those commercial buildings. We're in the process of purchasing the middle third, and we're in talks of the last third. So we're hoping to get all of that minus Foster Freeze unless something else has changed. But you'll see where to be a parking lot and maybe some other changes. Again, we as a district have been talking about we could be using some of those buildings for, i.e., giant marketplace storage or giant threads. So we might be keeping a couple of those buildings there for COS. Again, as you head into Meadow, you'll see a roundabout there. It'll lead, and if you take a left in that roundabout, it'll lead you to the University Center. And then if you look up above in Lot 7, you'll see the little dashed line where it says Crow Street. We're looking at putting an entrance and a lighting up in that area. So we are working, Byron and his staff are working with the city of Visalia to work on that. And then if you look over to your right, Student Union. So we plan on building a student union. The plan is to keep the current cafeteria in operation until this one is complete. Again, because that'll house the bookstore, cafeteria, student affairs, some of student services functions. So again, once that is complete, we'll tear down the current cafeteria, and that will now become the amphitheater. So it'll be a nice outdoor amphitheater once we're complete there. Next slide. Just give you just a couple of renderings, and if you've seen these before, the intersection of Mooney and Tulare. Next slide. The main entrance as you're coming off of that roundabout, you'll see the north elevation, the main entrance there, a lot of glass. Next slide. Again, looking from the parking lot, look east, you're actually parking, that's the west view, but you're actually looking east when you're parking in that parking lot. A nice visual of the University Center. Next slide. Kind of give you some insight on what's in there. On the first floor, again, offices. We foresee COS overseeing the University Center, and we are currently working with universities to be partners with us. Of course, one is definitely Fresno State. A lecture hall that will be seating 220 seats, lecture classrooms, and computer labs. Next slide. On the second floor, again, adjunct office suite, 7 lecture classrooms, 2 science labs, prep room and offices, and group study rooms there. Next slide. So this is the preliminary cost. Again, I should have prefaced this as we plan on making this sale. We would like your approval next month in June. This is why we're doing a precursor. I'll be taking a resolution to the board in June asking for authorization to sell all $95 million in July. We'll have 3 years to spend 85% of that. Again, you'll see the Tulare Crow intersection, about 1.3. And this is a construction cost. University Center, a little over 46 million. Student Union, 25. Amphitheater, 2. If you head on over to the right-hand side, all the soft cost, 19.1 million. So construction, 75.8. Soft cost at 19.1. So a total project cost of 95 million. And we have a contingency built into there, about 2.3 million.
Any idea what interest rate will be on the bonds?
5% interest, I think. Coupon bonds? Yes, I believe so. And then Measure C, and it will do this in 4 phases. Tulare Crow intersection. You see, I've already started working on the design there. Hopefully to be completed in 26. University Center, already started working on that. You'll see we start construction in 25, 26. And then we're looking at occupying May of 28. Definitely trying to get ready for fall of 28. The Student Union, construction again about the same time in 26, not at the same calendar year. And then again, occupying in June of 28, but definitely be ready for a fall of 28. And then you'll see the amphitheater around latter part of 29. Again, this is our estimation as we know now. And when we do sell the bonds, we do have a legally spin-down rate of 85% within after 3 years. We're working with our financial team to ensure that we're doing that. So next slide there.
There's no problem in repaying what we fronted during that time,
Yes.
correct?
So last month, the board approved a resolution to reimburse the funds that we've already expended. Remember, you approved and we set money aside. Byron has already started expending Tulare. You see those 4 phases. So we now can reimburse ourselves. So we'll reimburse our general fund out of the bond proceeds. Just to
Those reimbursed costs are hard dollar costs, not administrative costs.
No, there's no salaries in there.
There's
It's just-
no,
Yeah, not our salaries.
yeah.
Parameters, again, 95 million, 30-year term. Current interest rate bonds, $13 per 100,000 assessed value. AV, we're showing and that's the assessed valuation, the growth of the area. 5.5 for 24-25, and then 4% afterwards. Our 10-year AV growth here in this county was 5.5% the last 5 years, or 10 years, excuse me. You'll see 5 in the second to the last bullet, Trustee Sherman, is about 5% coupon bonds. And then our reserve, our county is pretty aggressive in making sure that we, as a district, or they have the reserves in the bank. So after 3 years, they'll have the reserves that's needed to pay off current rates or the current tax obligations plus more. So they do collect a little over. Next slide. Of this, really only 3 lines I'm just going to draw your attention to. First one is what we had to our financial advisor, underwriter, and our legal lead team is, can we authorize all this in one issuance. Remember, we want to do this all in one issuance, and the reason being is present value money for sure, but secondly is on your tax bill. Say we're authorizing 95 million, but we break it out by 40 million, 50 million, you'll see two lines. Now, when President Calvin went out on the road show and tried to garner support of this bond, he was always getting questions. You already have 5 bonds or whatever, because every time you do an issuance out of authorization, it's a separate line. So we're going to do one separate line, 95 million. Again,
We
tax
didn't get
rate.
questioned about COS stuff. It was people that were looking at other taxing authorities that said, hey, I've got multiple line items for one bond or 2 bonds. How does that work? I don't want any of that confusion. We just want one line item for our one bond.
Second one, very important. Are we being maintained at $13? All indications, and I had them sign their life away, is yes, it's $13 per 100,000. Last thing we want to do is go over that and hear from our taxpayers. So yes, $13 per 100,000 assessed value. And then the last line, the repayment ratio. Legally, you can go up to 4 times the amount you borrow. We're at 2.2, so we're well under on what we legally can do. Next slide, please. Here's our timeline. We had a kickoff meeting with our financial advisor, who's K&N Public Finance, our bond underwriter, who's Raymond James, and our bond counsel, Norton Rose Fulbright. Tonight is a information, letting you know what we are planning on doing. We do have a rating agency meeting with Moody's and Standard & Poor's, where they rate the district on fiscal stability. And then next month, we'll take a resolution to you for authorization to sell the bonds in late July or early August. Once you approve it, knock on wood, it goes to market and it sells within, I don't know, 3 to 4 hours, if that. And then again, it takes about a week to get the money in the bank. Boom, we'll reimburse ourselves, and then we'll start spending from that bond. I do want to note, once we sell the bonds, we have to, within 30 or 60 days, get a Citizens Oversight Committee to oversee these bonds to make sure they're the ones that look at it and make sure that we spend the money how we say we're going to do it in the bond language. So again, I'm working with President Calvin on that. We'll also be advertising in the local newspapers and what have you for our Citizens Oversight Committee. So that's our timeline, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. We will have our COS financing team, the underwriter, advisor, and bond counsel here on site to answer any detailed question you may have next month. Yes.
Ron, is there I suspect there is, the 3-year timeframe to completion? Is there like a safety net for rain, for instance?
Yes,
Like-
for example, CTE, yes.
Yeah.
No
There's, yes, if there's labor shortage, if there's Mother
Weather
Nature issues,
conditions.
what have you.
Yeah.
Again, we have to document that, and that goes through our bond counsel, Norton Rose Fulbright.
Right.
Because what we don't want to happen is the IRS come back and audit us, so we'll document everything.
Questions? I have a question, but I'm not sure if it's relevant to our bonds. I understand in some situations, an organization has to have a certain amount of reserves, and then if they drop below the reserves, the bond can be called up and they can, is there anything of that nature where you have to have a certain amount of
No,
reserves?
What we do with what Standard & Poor's does is they look at our capacity to fund a bond. They look at our reserves and how healthy we are as, one, do we have a stable board? Do we have a stable administration? Do we have stable finances? But no time will they pull back that bond because our general fund is separate than our taxpayer dollars. So no, I'm not aware of anything. Brent, are you aware of anything?
No, it almost sounded like he was talking about a performance bond.
Yeah,
A contractor has to
performance
have
bonds, yes.
A contractor has to have a performance bond to bid on our work, and the surety companies expect them to have a certain amount of fiscal stability, or they won't extend them that kind of protection. That'd be one, but that's a different kind of bond. Is that what you're thinking?
I think there may be something similar to that in a situation where you have a revenue bond, where you issue bonds and the repayment stream is revenue being generated from like an enterprise fund that's generating fees to service the
We've
bonds.
had a handful of those over the years.
Yeah.
Smaller ones.
Yeah, if they drop, then they
If they
get
drop.
downgraded.
And we paid those off. I think the student union was one of
But,
those.
yeah, I
and
wouldn't,
we paid
apply.
those off.
I agree with you.
I was wondering more if it was like a 90 days cash on hand to cover expenses, and if it dips under that, rating drops, nothing
Yeah,
like
not
that. in
that
this
I'm
one.
aware of, no.
Perfect. Okay, no further questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 8, consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees or any member in the audience and considered as a separate agenda item. Is there anyone that would like to pull any of the items on?
Yeah, I would like to pull item, what item is that? It's Luann's item. I see her here, so I'm going to make her work. It's the CM. Yeah, what item is that?
14.
Item 14.
13 as well, just a innocent question that I want to ask it outside of.
I had considered pulling 17, but I don't believe the professor is in the audience. Is that correct?
He's not. Ryan is not.
I just want to make a comment. I don't know if I want to pull the actual item. I'm sorry? Sure. Okay. So we're going to pull 13 and 14, correct?
Okay, I move for approval of consent calendar with the exception of items 13 and 14.
Second.
Greg?
Trustee Sherman, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 13, renewal of legal services for the district.
I was just curious as to why we would do a 1 year. I mean, it says it extends for up to 5 years on a month-to-month, but is there a reason we wouldn't do a 2 or 3 year, or is it customary, or is it?
Pretty customary,
Okay.
yeah. If you think there's an advantage to,
I don't know. You know, I mean, we've been with them for a while, and they seem like they're very solid.
great, yeah, they're
Yeah.
one of 3 firms that most community colleges use.
Is this Mary Beth's firm?
If you, when you go beyond the 1 year on the remainder of the 5-year extension, you have to go into their current
Fee schedule.
fee schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking if we went for 2 or 3 years and locked it in, I don't know whether they would do that.
I don't think they lock it
I
in.
don't object to it as it is right now, but just, you know, maybe next time it
I
comes
think
around.
if you go into month to month, you get the same increase that everybody else does. So it may be, we've been with them long enough to where I think we've just gone with it year to year. So we can certainly check it if you'd like us to.
Just a comment. Stick in the back of your mind if it makes any sense next time. I would move for approval if there isn't any other question of item 13.
Second.
A motion from trustee Lane, a second from trustee Cardoza. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 14, land use agreement permit to use land for Simus Station.
Yeah, Luann, I maybe just a little bit of clarification on this. And also, is there a cost associated with this? And does this benefit the area in general and just that
Yeah.
kind of thing?
So the Simus Station is a weather station for I put a lot of detail in here, but it's a weather station for which the whole area. So a lot of our GSAs, so they use it. You can read the context because I can't say it again. It took a lot of time to read to get to this, but you have to measure environmental transport ET data, and that ET data, and you get a crop coefficient, and it helps you measure the water that is uptaken and therefore regarding your irrigation, knowing how much you're going to irrigate, that sort of thing. So with all the, that's what now the GSAs are using. And so we don't have a local weather station that, and it's really based on your local microclimate. So we don't have a local station. And so I think there is one in Porterville, but our GSAs, I've been working for about a year and a half. So our GSAs would really love us to have this. Just the managers of the water, the boards and so forth would like us to have that. And we have the pasture land. You have to have, it has to be on something. It can't be on dry dirt. So it has to be in the pasture land, something that's irrigated. So does it cost us? Yes. I had written that into a grant, but it cost us a little bit to get the basic setup. They provide part of it and we get part of it, and we have to agree to maintain it, that sort of thing. But that's part of the educational experience I think is important to have. So
Yeah, it seems like a good fit for what we
Yeah,
do and what
yeah.
general.
I first fought it myself because I'm going, something else to do. But the more we thought about it, the more we talked about it, and the more the GSAs. And in fact, there was some discussion in the mid-CWEA that they would let us have wouldn't measure the ET for us in our pasture land for our water usage. I don't know if we'll actually do that, but I think it's a positive. Charlie A.B., you all know very well. We'll see where we are in November on this, and we'll let him report out in our farm operations of how it's going, so.
And each one of our farm operations members were in favor of this as well. They're all very tied in with the GSAs and working with Charlie.
We have their support. That's my main question.
Yeah.
We're required to have somebody go through the Cal Poly course to manage the.
Yeah, and Charlie A.B. already is way superior to, he's been through all those classes. Otherwise, if it were me, I would have fought it, so, okay. Yeah, another class for me, yep.
Okay, I move for approval of consent calendar item number 14.
Second.
Motion by trustee Nunes, seconded by trustee Cardoza. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Before we move to action items, just wanted to make a quick comment on the sabbatical. I was really impressed by the contents of there. I think the author wrote audacious goals, and which is bold and unconventional, and I think creating an app to help save students money and have it a better approach was very impressive to me to read that, and that's happening here in our campus. Also wondered if it could be useful in other campuses, but I know our focus is here for COS students, but it was impressive to read that the summary or the proposal, and just wanted to make a quick comment about that.
I found it extremely well-written. I was curious, it references the fact that the student fees currently are about $100, and the intention is to go to about 30. I don't know if anybody in the room knows how we do that, or who would receive that $30? Would it be as a result of the authorship of?
I imagine it's probably to keep the database, the cost to go towards keeping the cost of the
Right, but I mean,
database.
if I am this instructor that's doing this work, do I get the $30? I didn't think so.
Maintenance of the system.
I would imagine, but probably the way they collect it, because probably through an app store, and they would collect the the money, and then that probably goes somewhere to COS, and then COS would cover the cost of that
I'm not
maintenance.
sure where it goes. I just
Yeah.
know that we verified that this is not a for-profit venture.
Yeah, and the idea was free to $30, so it might even be free, but even $30 is a discount from 80 to 100, so.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome.
It goes into the student's pocket, basically, right? It's a savings to the student,
Yes.
is how I read it, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because they'll be using a different program.
Yeah. Moving on to action items, number 18, consolidation of governing board elections, resolution number 2024-08. Dr. Calvin.
Thank you, Brandon. This is a requirement that we have in even years to consolidate and advertise our
trustee ward elections, which will occur in November of 2024. So the consolidation they speak of is the fact that we have 2 wards that will be up for election in November. And so this is our opportunity to advertise it and deliver to the county superintendent of schools the resolution ordering that election and the consolidation of those 2 wards.
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Nunes and seconded by trustee Cardoza. Megan, can you call a roll call vote?
Trustee Nunes?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye.
Trustee Lane?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Item 19, curriculum, new, modified, and deleted curriculum. Dr. Lacerna.
Dr. Lacerna stepped away, so I'll take this item. Approving a handful of new courses, reactivating one, modifying a couple of pages worth as a result of our 5-year review, and then deleting 6 courses, primarily because they have not been taught in 2 years. And then we've got 2 pages of program modifications, again, based on a 2-year review, modifying those and keeping them up to date. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
I move we approve curriculum, new, modified, and deleted.
Second.
Motion by trustee Sherman, seconded by trustee Lane. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Then number 20, board policy second read. Dr. Calvin.
Got 3 second reads on board policies from the academic services area, chapter 4. 4050 is articulation, making sure that our courses articulate both directions with high schools as well as with 4-year colleges and universities. BP 4110, which is honorary degrees. Don't do a lot of that, but we still need to have a board policy for it. And then BP 4400, which is community ed in programs. The Ed Code allows for us to do that just without general funds, that they have to be self-sustaining. Not many changes, if any, to these. Maybe a couple of just administrative things, but not many changes to these, but happy to answer any questions you might have.
The only comment I'd like to make, if I may, is in reference to the district, if we can just call out the full name of the district, Sequoia Community College District. That's on 4050 and then on 4400 in the first instance of it.
Well,
Instead of saying the district, you would spell it out first.
okay, but would that be consistent with all the other policies that we've done?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I agree.
So moved with the corrections to the 2 policies of adding the full name.
Second.
Motion by trustee Cardoza, seconded by trustee Lane. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Don't say nay.
Thank you, everyone. We will now adjourn.
Call or something. Good luck. You're going there, I know you told us.